The night my husband died, I thought my life was over. But 6 months later, I opened his laptop and found a secret folder that changed everything. Inside were photos of another woman, two children, and a life he had been hiding for years. But that wasn't the terrifying part. The terrifying part was realizing they weren't human. And if he hadn't died that night, I think I would have been their next victim. Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Before we get into tonight's story, if you have your own strange, creepy, or disturbing experiences you'd like to share, feel free to send them in. I always enjoy reading your stories, and some of them may even appear in future videos on this channel. And as always, let me know down in the comments where you're listening from right now and what time it is for you. I genuinely love seeing where you guys are watching from. Now dim the lights, put on your headphones, get comfortable, and let's get into tonight's story. The laptop was an old silver brick he hadn't used in years. Mark was a digital hoarder, he never threw anything away. You never know, he'd say with a shrug, I might need that tax return from 2012 someday. I had laughed back then. Now, his digital junk drawer felt like a treasure map leading back to the man I missed so much. It was sitting on his desk in the spare room we'd made into his office. The air was stale, thick with his scent, old books, faint coffee, and that clean smell that was just him. My hand shook as I lifted the lid. For a second, I really expected his smiling face to be the screensaver, but it was just that generic green hill from a default background. It felt like a tiny betrayal. Pressing the power button felt wrong, like disturbing a grave. The machine groaned to life, the fan kicking in like an old man clearing his throat. I spent the first hour just clicking through familiar folders. Documents was a mess of old work proposals. The music folder was a time capsule of his 20s, all angsty rock and indie pop we used to scream along to on road trips. Then I opened the pictures folder, and there we were, hundreds of photos of us. Us on our honeymoon in Italy with Mark grinning, a dab of gelato on his nose. Us painting our first apartment, covered in beige paint and laughing. Each photo was a fresh stab to the heart. This was the man I knew. This was the Mark I was mourning. My cursor drifted over a folder I hadn't noticed before, tucked at the bottom of the list. It was labeled simply Archive. Seemed harmless, probably just more old work files. But when I double-clicked, a password prompt popped up. That was weird. Mark wasn't a man of secrets. We shared everything: bank accounts, passwords, embarrassing stories. He always said that secrets were the little cracks that eventually break a relationship. I tried our usuals. Our first pet's name, the street of our first date, our birthdays combined, access denied, access denied, access denied. A knot of anxiety tightened in my gut. It was probably nothing. A forgotten password from before he met me. I should have closed the laptop. I should have just walked away and left his last silly little secret alone. But a new feeling was bubbling up through my grief, curiosity, a sharp, nagging feeling I couldn't ignore. I looked at the framed photo of him on the desk. What are you hiding, Mark? I whispered. I thought about his obsession with folklore and mythology. He used to joke that his passwords were his little tributes to the forgotten ones. I started typing in names from the spines of his books. Porscoro, access denied. Pishacha, access denied. I was about to give up. Then I remembered the worn leather book he kept on his nightstand. It had no title, he just called it his Book of Hosts. I typed the word, host. Access granted, the folder opened. There were no damning emails, no secret diaries. It was all organized with a cold, clinical precision. A few subfolders were named with what looked like project codes. Nightingale, Sparrow, Finch, and then there was one that made my blood freeze, Family Album B. My heart hammered against my ribs, B as in, Plan B as in, not me. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. I clicked. It was a photo album just like ours, but it wasn't our family. It was Mark with his arm around another woman. She was beautiful, with sharp features, dark hair, and eyes that seemed to swallow the light. They were standing in front of a quaint little house with a picket fence and rose bushes. In front of them were two children, a boy and a girl, who looked to be around 7 and 9. They had their father's smile. The world just tilted, the air rushed out of my lungs, and a high-pitched ringing started in my ears. Bigamy. It's a word you read in tabloids, not something that happens to you, to your perfect husband. I clicked through the photos, my stomach churning. Mark pushing the little girl on a swing. Mark and the other woman smiling over a birthday cake. Mark and the boy holding up a string of fish, both of them beaming. It was a whole life. A complete, parallel life I knew nothing about. The betrayal was like acid, burning away the saintly image of my husband, leaving a monster. Every I love you, every promise of forever, it was all a lie. I wasn't his one and only. I was just option A, the city wife. This was his secret, cozy family in whatever perfect little town they lived in. I stumbled back from the desk, my hand clamped over my mouth, trying to choke back a sob that was half grief and half pure rage. Who was she? How long? The photos span years. There were pictures of the woman pregnant. He had children with her, a decade of deceit. I needed to know more. I went back to the laptop and opened a folder called Logistics. Inside were spreadsheets, travel itineraries, bank statements for an account I'd never seen. Flights booked every other weekend to a small town in rural Vermont I'd never even heard of. He always said it was for work. A difficult client. He'd come home exhausted, smelling like pine and wood smoke, and I would rub his shoulders, feeling sorry for my hardworking husband. The thought made me sick. The level of planning was staggering, the sheer compartmentalization. The man I had shared a bed with for 12 years was a complete stranger. My grief morphed into a raging inferno. I scrolled back to the photos of his other family, staring at their faces. I hated them. But even through the haze of anger, a cold question started to form. Why was this folder, this monument to his betrayal, protected by the password host? Well, it didn't make any sense. For the next few hours, I was a detective picking through the ruins of my life. The rage cooled into a cold, obsessive need to dig up every last lie. I found a folder named Journals and opened it. The same password host unlocked everything. I started with the first entry from 10 years ago. At first, it sounded like the diary of a man torn between two lives. He wrote about me, Sarah, about his guilt, about how much he loved me. Then he wrote about Elora, the other woman, and the magnetic pull she had on him. He said they met when his car broke down near her town on a solo hiking trip, or so he'd told me. But as I kept reading, the language changed. The entries became less about love and more about obligation. He stopped writing about loving Alara and started writing about needing her. About needing to be near her and the children, who he called the brood. October 14th, 2018. The drive up was draining, feeling that familiar pull the whole way. It's like a hunger, but it's not mine. The brood was waiting. They looked pale. Alara said they hadn't been fed properly. The last visitor wasn't satisfactory. I feel the pressure. Finding suitable friends is getting harder. My blood ran cold. Fed, visitors, friends, what was he talking about? This sounded like something from one of his horror novels. I scrolled faster. March 5th, 2020. They are growing, their needs are increasing. Alara's skin has that smooth porcelain look again, but it's a temporary fix. She says the children are getting restless. Their eyes are too dark, too deep. Sometimes when I look at them, I don't see children. I see something ancient and patient, just wearing a child's skin like a coat. This wasn't a diary, this was the rambling of a madman, or something much, much worse. The password echoed in my head, host. He wasn't just a husband and father over there, he was their provider. My mind started racing, rearranging a decade of memories. The weird, whispered phone calls he'd quickly hang up. The times he'd come back from his business trips looking gaunt and pale, only to be buzzing with a terrifying energy a day later. The faint, metallic smell that would sometimes cling to his clothes. I remembered a conversation from years ago. He was reading that untitled leather book, and I asked him what was so interesting. He looked up, his eyes seeming to look right through me. It's about symbiosis, Sarah, he'd said. Mutually beneficial relationships. One organism provides for another and gets something essential in return, protection, vigor. He'd smiled then, a strange, tight smile. Nature is all about the transaction. The room started to spin. I pushed away from the desk and stumbled to the kitchen, my own home suddenly feeling alien. Was I going crazy? Was grief making me see monsters in a dead man's journal? I leaned against the counter, trying to catch my breath. My perfect husband wasn't just a liar. He was caught up in something that had to do with hunger and broods and feeding. He was their host. And a terrifying thought started to form. What exactly was he hosting? I had to stop. My heart was pounding. It's funny, the things you do to feel normal when your world is falling apart. I filled the kettle and spooned tea into a pot, just going through the motions. But as the kettle started to whistle, the sound filled the silent house, and all I could think was that my real life ended 6 months ago. What I'm living now is the terrifying postscript. Finding out your life is a lie is an isolating feeling. But if you're drawn to stories like this, the kind that peel back reality to see what's underneath, stick around. We're all just trying to make sense of the shadows. Now, I had to get back to those files, I had to see it all. Armed with a cup of tea I couldn't taste, I went back to the laptop. The screen's glow felt sinister in the dark. I clicked on a folder named Project Nightingale. So poetic, such a lie. Inside were dozens of video files labeled with dates and last names. 2019 712 Jenkins, 2022 28 Peterson. Part of me screamed to just slam the laptop shut and smash it to pieces, but I couldn't. I had to know the truth. I clicked the most recent file, 2023 11/4 Thompson, just a few weeks before Mark's accident. The video flickered on. It was grainy, filmed from a hidden camera high in the corner of a room. It was the living room from the pictures. Alara was on the sofa reading. The two children were playing on the floor. It looked terrifyingly normal. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then the front door opened and my Mark walked in. He looked tired but was smiling. Behind him was another man, middle-aged and friendly-looking, Thompson. Paul, this is my wife Alara, Mark said, his voice tinny through the speakers. And these are our kids, Leo and Maya. Alara stood up and her smile was dazzling, but it didn't reach her eyes. So good to finally meet you, she hummed. Paul looked flattered. They offered him a drink, made small talk. It was agonizingly normal, but I could see the tension in Mark's shoulders, the way his eyes kept darting toward the children. Then the kids stopped playing. They turned their heads at the exact same time and just stared at Paul. Their faces were blank, their dark eyes wide and unblinking. It was the look a predator gives its prey. Paul laughed nervously, kids, always staring. Alara returned from the kitchen with a pitcher of dark red liquid. A local specialty, she said, pouring a glass for Paul. Beetroot and pomegranate, very healthy. He took a long drink. As he drank, his movements slowed. His speech started to slur. He was drugged. I watched as Alara and Mark guided him to a big armchair. And then it began. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Alara's fingers seemed to lengthen. They stretched out like warm taffy. The children crawled toward the chair, their movements unnervingly fluid like insects. Then the true horror started. Alara leaned forward and her jaw unhinged, dropping impossibly low. Her mouth widened into a black pit filled with a writhing mass of pale, thread-like tendrils. The children's faces did the same. They weren't a family, they were a nest. I clapped a hand over my mouth as they descended on the man. The tendrils shot out, latching onto him. He didn't even flinch. They weren't biting him, they were absorbing him, drawing the life right out of him. His skin turned pale, then gray. He seemed to shrink, a slow, horrifying deflation, and Mark just sat there on the sofa watching. His face was a mask of pure disgust and grim duty. He was their keeper, luring people to their den. It took almost an hour. When they were done, the man was a shrunken husk. Alara and the children pulled back, their faces snapping back to normal, but they looked different. Their skin had a healthy glow, their eyes sparkled, they had been fed. My husband stood up, and with a sickeningly detached efficiency, he and Alara wrapped the body in a canvas sheet. He looked directly at the camera, his face blank. Nightingale protocol complete, he said to no one. Host is secure, he was talking about himself. He was secure because they were satisfied. His reward for this was their continued favor. The success he had in our life was powered by this. Powered by the lives of men named Jenkins and Peterson and Thompson. The video ended, I just sat there in the dark. The world had been stripped of all meaning. My husband wasn't a man leading a double life. He was a collaborator, a servant to inhuman things that wore the faces of a wife and children. My grief for Mark was gone, replaced by a cold, bottomless terror. I wasn't the wife of a flawed man, I was the wife of a monster's butler. Numbly, I scrolled through the rest of the files. More logs, more videos, I thought I'd seen the worst of it. Then I saw the very last file in the archive folder, a simple text document named with a single word, my name. Zara Final. My blood turned to ice, I double-clicked. It wasn't a journal, it wasn't a video, it was a calendar entry. The date was for the week after his accident, the week he was supposed to come home. The entry had only 2 words. The introduction home. I stared at the screen, the words blurring. I finally understood. I wasn't option A, I was the last course, the final offering. He had spent 12 years with me, not out of love, but to fatten me up on a perfect life, to make me trusting and content. I was his retirement plan, the special meal he was going to serve his other family right here in our home. His death hadn't saved me from a lie, it had saved me from being consumed by it. The laptop screen timed out, going black, and all I could see was my own terrified face staring back. He wasn't protecting his other family from me, he was saving me for them. They're still out there in that quaint little house. And their host is gone, they must be getting hungry by now, and I have to ask myself, am I next? And that brings us to the end of tonight's story. Honestly, this one really stays with you. The idea that someone can live an entire hidden life right beside you is already terrifying enough, but what was waiting behind that secret makes it even darker. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Mark was a victim, or was he part of something far worse from the very beginning? And as always, if you have your own strange, creepy, or disturbing stories, feel free to send them in. I always love reading your submissions, and your story might be featured in an upcoming video. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next volume. Until next time, stay safe, keep the lights on, and I'll see you in the next one.